Now before you go and dislike this video, look at this image on screen. You might not recognize it at first, but if I show you the original and then back to this, you should know what this is. Now this is a brand new loading screen for the zombies map Ascension from Black Ops 1. This loading screen was included in the latest issue of the Call of Duty Zombies comic. If you want to see a full live reading and reaction, you can find that link down below in the description. With this new loading screen, it makes it feel ever more realistic at the idea of there being a DLC 5 and then remastering maps, including Ascension. Now the fact this is a brand new loading screen, literally it is pretty much 100% different from the original. We've had a Nuketown loading screen that was new, but all it was a less zoomed in version, and we've also had a new Moon loading screen as well, and that was different as well, but there was only a few minor changes. This one is completely different. So does that mean we might see Ascension as part of a DLC 5 package from Treyarch, as part of what they mentioned in their live stream of there being more content for zombies in 2017? That is going to be something we're going to be discussing in this video, as well as breaking down all the differences from the original loading screen to this one, because when I first saw this, my jaw dropped to the floor. This is absolutely outstandingly hype, and if you guys are excited at the prospect of Ascension being a remade map as well as possibly others, make sure to smash that like button. Let's jump into it. Now if we do take the idea of them remastering zombie maps, unlike Black Ops 1, they're going to actually make sure that these follow a story and go with the Black Ops 3 story, because you can't just plop the Origins characters into these old Black Ops 1 maps and not have any story take place. And as it is slightly an alternate universe, things are slightly different in this loading screen, and I don't know if that affects the location and things happening in Ascension, or if things just happen differently altogether. If we look at the original on the far left, we can see a scientist, which we can pretty much confirm is Yuri. If you have no idea on the storyline of Ascension, this is a Black Ops 1 zombies map which revolves around the Russian Cosmodrome, and it follows the storyline of two Russian scientists, the main lead one being the infamous Dr. Gersh, which we do see in the Gorod Krovy Easter egg. Now he let off a fellow colleague, Yuri, and put him to work on rockets, and that's what you can see in this original image on the left. But in secret, Yuri completed the Gersh device with the help of Samantha speaking into his head. So when Yuri presented it to Gersh, it sucked him into a portal into the ether where he had to escape Samantha. And so in the original Black Ops 1, the four characters activate the Casimir mechanism so that Gersh could escape the ether. Now since then, we found out in Zetsubo no Shima that Gersh is existing in an ethereal form wandering the universe, and he ends up in Gorod Krovy. And then during the Easter egg, Sophia requires Gersh, and some weird process happens to him, and we're pretty sure at this point he's dead. As you can see in the original, that scientist appears to be Yuri designing the rockets, and we can see these rockets here. Let's not focus on them too much, because if we go to this brand new loading screen, we can see Dr. Monty. He has sat in his perfect world, and he is scripting out a blueprint. And if you guys don't recognize that blueprint, this is the KN-44 summoning key blueprint that we see inside the Giant. So now we know these events took place even before the Giant in this loading screen. He is designing that summoning key blueprint. We still don't really know the significance, but we can tell it's his perfect world because we see loads of clouds and blue skies and lots of greenery. And when I first realized that was Dr. Monty, I had shivers down my spine. This is so cool. Jumping back to the old loading screen, we see these three rockets, and these are the rockets that we end up seeing and using to blow up the Earth, funnily enough. And these rockets spell out a shadow that says 115, but pay close attention to the design of these rockets because they're quite slim. And now compare them to the brand new loading screen. These rockets are very clearly different rockets. They even have different support than the original rockets in the Ascension loading screen, and that's because these rockets are from Der Eisendrache. You can even see the sort of trees in the distance there. It's different to the original. And if you notice, the rockets don't spell 115 in the shadows anymore. It doesn't spell anything. We have Dr. Monty drawing up the blueprint in his perfect world, and we have the Der Eisendrache rockets all being set in place. Now what's really interesting is we have a blueprint underneath which seems to be of some some sort of lizard. Now at first I thought this was a dragon, but you can see that it doesn't have wings. Now we know that Division 9 created these dragons for the Russians, so could this perhaps be a prototype of what the dragons were ending up being? At this point they were prototypes that didn't have wings, or maybe even in this timeline the dragons were not only used in Gorod Krovi but also used around the Ascension area. Why though, I have no idea, but unfortunately the loading screen is just a tad too pixelated to work out the text that it's pointing to, but it seems to be pointing to a bone in its neck. Now the digital artwork of the comic is ever so slightly pixelated, so you can't quite tell what the text is saying in the blueprint, but to me it looks like some form of disformed dragon, but there's been a lot of other guesses. If you've got any ideas and any thoughts on anything we've spoken about so far and what we will talk about, be sure to comment down below. Now in the original loading screen at this point it seems to be a empty cell, which I believe the scientists were working in, but now it's replaced with what looks like Samantha looking into a gum machine full of gumballs. This is extremely fascinating because you can tell on her face she has absolutely no idea what is going on, and we don't know when exactly this picture is taken in the timeline. But if I were to have a good guess, it would be at some point in the house there would be a gum machine, probably full of sweeties that the kids would want to eat, and she's very, very intrigued by this machine and wants to kind of look inside it to see if there's anything on the other side, or perhaps if there's anyone on the other side. It's really hard to describe this one because we have absolutely no idea when in time this takes place, and each picture looks like it takes place at different points. If this could all be related to the timeline of this new version of Ascension, we don't know. This final detail on the loading screen really is the icing on the cake, the creme de la creme, to really confirm this is during the Black Ops 3 timeline and really makes you feel like this could be a real thing to actually play in game, as we see a keeper on the loading screen rather than this mysterious silhouetted character who some believe to again be Gersh or Yuri or even the Pentagon Thief. It's very hard to pinpoint when exactly in time Ascension would have seen keepers within the map, but in my opinion over the years the silhouetted character seems to be travelling through time and space during that image, so perhaps that again is what the keeper is doing. Now some interesting theories that have come about is rather than Gersh being trapped in the Gersh device in the original timeline, perhaps Samantha is trapped, and that's why we see the image of her looking into the gumball, as she could potentially be stuck in the ether or just around where she is not safe in the house. I don't know how much credibility that has, but if it is rewriting the zombie lore and history of these maps as we know it, anything could be canon based on these images, and there is going to be a ton of other theories out there before we even have an explanation from Blundell. But if the timeline and story is being rewritten, then that means that Yuri never developed the rockets inside of Ascension, which means that the rockets never ended up on the moon. Now in Der Eisendrache we do blow up the moon, but that's just in one specific universe. If the scientists didn't make the rockets, then do the scientists even exist? I'm assuming since we do see Gersh within Gorod Krovi, the scientists still do exist, at least Gersh does in his form, so it seems his fate is always the same, but what happens to Yuri, we aren't sure. What I love about this is all these old Black Ops 1 maps always had the most mysterious loading screens which never got explained, and now they are sort of getting explained with new reworked versions, which is absolutely incredible. Now another small detail is behind the loading screen there seems to be some sort of big object. We have absolutely no idea what it is. It is way too hard to tell even at this moment in time, but of course as we get more loading screens these are all going to fit in and just pair up and work as one big huge image. Now we've had quite a few different loading screens over the last year or so with Black Ops 3, but this one to me is the real nail in the coffin to me that says that we are going to get some sort of reworked or remastered maps at some point in 2017 as part of the content that Treyarch has said they're going to deliver for zombies. I mean, let's be frank here, at this point we've had a brand new moon loading screen where a lot of things are very, very different. We blow up the moon in Der Eisendrache, but we have tons of technology which is watching over Griffin Station on the moon. There's literally CCTV cameras watching over it. We see a projector in Maxis's room showing the moon being found as well as the MPD, and then in Gorod Krovi there's also monitors which are looking at Griffin Station on the moon. Like, to me, even back then that was enough evidence in my opinion opinion that we were going to be seeing some sort of Moon remake at some point of time, either in Black Ops 3 or in the next Treyarch Zombies game. And there are at least 5 other Moon references in other sections of Black Ops 3, such as the multiplayer. Inside of one of the multiplayer maps, you see the wave gun blueprint being behind the giant, and even during January 2015's DICE presentation by Treyarch, they teased a new version of the Doris loading screen, and what happened there? We got ourselves the giant. It's pretty clear to me at this point that obviously Blundell isn't going to be saying directly what exactly is happening with Zombies in 2017 in terms of content, but he's using the comics as a way to slowly tease and roll out all these loading screens to kind of signify us that things are going to be changing up a little bit in the story. Now, I can understand a few of your frustrations right now watching, saying a loading screen doesn't confirm we're getting a remake of those maps. John, you're jumping to conclusions, and I do agree with you, but it's at this point it just seems so weird to have all these loading screens for them never to be in fruition as main remastered maps. There is story which Blundell is obviously teasing about wanting to dive in further into, and there wouldn't really be any other way for us to do that unless we experience playing the maps ourselves. Now, I've got one final thing that I want to say about the possibility of Ascension coming as an actual remake DLC map, and during Black Ops 3, of course, it's had a bunch of different title updates available on all consoles. Traditionally, when an update goes live on PC, people tend to data mine it, and during 1.15, which was around about 4 months ago, so just before the release of Revelations, there was a title update which contained a bunch of textures for a bunch of things, including stuff for Origins and Kino de Toten. Now, at the time, we believed that to all be stuff for Revelations, and of course those were part of the Revelations map, but there are quite a few things related to Ascension within this title update, which is really strange, as we never saw it within the actual Revelations map. So what exactly does that mean? Well, I think the answer is pretty clear looking from that. Now, of course, you can take this with your own grain of salt, but the evidence is pretty clear from that. So in terms of these comics, there seems to be a brand new one every 2 months or so, and there's a total of 6 issues. So that means we're going to be getting 6 brand new loading screens in that time period, and we also have Moon, so that brings us to a total of 7 new loading screens. So does that possibly mean we could have 7 remastered maps? That's the thing that I'm not quite sure. I'm obviously more and more inclined to believe that this is now happening, but of course I still have my suspicions. I made a video about 2 weeks ago on why DLC 5 is more likely now than unlikely to happen, and this just makes me believe it even more so. Treyarch don't have the time really to be making brand new maps from scratch, but they probably do have a little bit of time to be able to put aside to remaster some of the maps they've already created. If this were to happen, I wouldn't expect them to go crazy like they did on the Giant, or go in depth on Easter eggs such as they did on Horizon Drac, but this looks so damn promising that I would not be surprised if we did see some sort of remakes or at least remasters in Black Ops 3 as DLC some point this year. I sure as hell would buy this within a heartbeat, and we don't really have a way of playing Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 maps on the next gen systems, so this would be the best way for them to do it. I'd love to get your feedback on everything down below in this comment section. Why is Dr. Monty there? Is it the blueprint he's drawing? Why are the Horizon Drac rockets there? Why is Samantha looking in a Gobblegum machine? Why is the Keeper there? Is that a Dragon blueprint? Are we getting Ascension as a remade map? Is DLC 5 suddenly going to be a thing? Let me know all your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed this video and found it informative, give yourself a pat on the back for getting all the way through this, and be sure to smash that like button, as I am so incredibly hyped at the prospect of this. It's going to be insane. Any updates we do get, I'll be sure to update you guys, so be sure to click subscribe and that little notification bell. I'll be coming out with a cipher video very soon on all of the ciphers inside of this comic, so we can get all the hidden messages and secrets. But thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.